Welcome to the Real Talk Real Estate Podcast PDX. Our mission is to give real value to home buyers and sellers, shed light on the home buying and selling process, and give insight about the market and suburbs of Portland, Oregon. I'm your host, Dylan Thomas, licensed principal broker with HomeSmart Realty Group. Although this podcast is centered around home buyers and sellers, Real Talk Real Estate is for anyone looking for home tips and market updates in the Portland metro area. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the show. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Real Talk Real Estate PDX. I'm your host, Dylan Thomas, licensed principal broker in the state of Oregon with HomeSmart Realty Group. I've been out a couple weeks. We haven't done any new episodes. I took the family to Disneyland and just kind of hung out. But I got Travis Smith back in here. He did the loan episode with us where we talked about the different common loans. Really enjoyed our conversation, and we've kind of, in that last episode, we talked about different, future episodes that we could do. We talked about investing. We talked about the cost of waiting, as well as like diving deeper into specialty loans. But I think this time around, I just kind of wanted to catch up with Travis, see how life was treating him, and so welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Dylan. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
I saw your pictures from Disneyland. Looked like you guys were having a blast.
It was, it's the happiest place on earth, right?
Yeah, that's the word on the street.
It was fun. It's just so busy, man.
Yeah, I
It's
haven't
just
been there in
go,
years.
go. And
Did you get the fast pass?
we got the fast pass, but it doesn't, I mean, it works,
Yeah,
if
not
you
that
know what
fast.
you're doing. We didn't know what we were doing, so that just kind of,
Oh yeah, I haven't been there in forever.
you got to know the system, I guess. Got to
Yeah.
get to know all that stuff, and it's just,
You got the Disney Plus?
No.
You haven't done that?
No. Do you have that?
Yeah, Verizon. Even if you're a past client, Verizon's not going to like this, but they give you a year for free as long as you have Verizon. So I signed up for Verizon 3 years ago, and I just went on there, and they don't advertise it hard, but if you go through the My
nice.
Verizon app, yep. So there's
I have Verizon.
There's a treat for the listeners right there. If nothing else, Verizon will give you Disney Plus for free for a year.
That's awesome.
Yeah, signed up last night.
Do you like Disney Plus? Have you?
I did I don't have kids personally, so
Yeah.
I like Disney movies, but I checked out the Mandalorian last night, which was good. That little Star Wars show they got going on, so pretty fired up.
Is it only Disney?
No, they got Disney, Pixar, National Geographic.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so National Geographic's always good to go to. Oh,
Yeah.
Marvel, all the Marvel.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
God, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Got to do it now. Oh, that's cool. So yeah, I was kind of looking around on your Facebook, and it looks like you went hunting.
Yeah, I did. And by the way, before we get into that, I was going to say, if you guys didn't listen to the last episode, I was honored to be on. My name's Travis Smith, and I'm with Cross Country Mortgage. Been in the industry about 6.5 years now. Known Dylan for a while. He's one of my favorite agents. Always enjoyed working for him. Giving a little plug there. But just as a reminder, in case you didn't hear me before, that's who I am. I am a hunter, as Dylan alluded to. I was blessed to get an elk weekend before last out at the coast. Can't give too much information.
Was that
I don't
the
want
first
people on
season?
my spots. I do second season.
Oh, you
Saddle
did second.
Mountain.
Okay.
Yeah, we did the Weyerhaeuser permit.
Yeah.
Get up in there and hunt.
Did you get the drive-in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you go all in.
All in. Yeah, it's like $300 for one of those permits.
I did that years ago. With the first year that they brought it out, I
Yeah.
did that, and I was bow hunting.
Oh yeah.
And back in that time, but I can't remember if I used it for bow, because I was like, well, you're not going to drive in and try to find a bull elk in the clear cut and then stalk them on bow,
Yeah,
right?
no, I'm
Especially
not a
in
bow
Western
hunter, but
Oregon.
I can't imagine that'd be the way to do it. That's a
so
rifle scenario there.
I don't think I used the gates at all, or maybe it was fire season. They didn't let us use it. I don't know. I primarily walked in, but I did use that for rifle season. That was nice. That was money.
Oh yeah.
Getting back in there, because I thought I knew this area really well.
Yeah.
Until I started driving miles and miles back and then exploring different roads. I'm like, wow, why wasn't I spending my time over here?
And they change all the time with clear cutting new areas and all the different roads. So yeah, it's my brother family's super into it. So they go scouting before season and then kind of, my brother can tell you where every bull in the forest is and
nice.
what they do and how many points they have. So
you got the
I'm
hookup,
blessed in
huh?
that. Oh yeah, definitely. He takes me
You
out.
just got to
He's
show
"Let's
up and
go
go
check."
out.
Pretty much. Yeah. It's people are always giving me kudos for my what I get, but I have to give it all to my brother, to be honest with you.
That's nice of you.
So we got one weekend before last, and then this weekend spent 10 hours with my family cutting it up, staking it out. So got some good meat. I'll have to get you some of that.
Nice. Are you doing any hamburger sausage?
Oh yeah, elk burger's the best.
Yeah,
gotta love that.
That it is.
Steaks and burgers pretty much the key that we're going to be doing. I might make some summer sausage and stuff like that, but primarily it's going to elk burger.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So
how about you? I was going to call you out. I know you're a hunter.
Yeah. So I haven't hunted it's been about 4 or 5 years. I can't remember, 4 or 5 years since I've hunted. I kind of, once I got in this business and, had Tanner and I just kind of gave it up.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was so busy with real estate and everything. And this year I decided I really wanted to get back into it. The kids are getting older now. Pretty soon I'm going to be able to take Avery out and have fun with her out in the woods. And actually she came with me this year for a day hunt in Central Oregon. We had a good time. We got a grouse and didn't see any deer, but
that's all right.
It was good times.
That's my favorite times as a kid, going hunting with my old man. So
yeah,
for sure. That's awesome. I'm glad you're getting him into it.
But yeah, no luck as far as deer and elk go. Put a lot of miles on the boots and came home with tag suit.
It happens to everybody. Right on.
But yeah, so today, what do you want to talk about? You want to talk about investing? You want to talk about cost of waiting?
Well,
why it's a good time to buy?
Yeah, I think you run into that probably the same as I do, as kind of have been for years now. Is I can't tell you how many people I come across that I'm chatting with, and they're telling me how they're going to hold off to buy. Whether they're waiting for the market to crash or whatever excuse they have. They say, now's not the time. That they're waiting to buy. And I, as you probably have as yourself, I've had plenty of clients who waited years and then ended up buying, and all they did was got a more expensive house, and rates have been bouncing back and forth over years, and they've been historically low, but as we know, home prices have been going up. So everybody who even probably 3-4 years ago, I was getting people who were going to hold off for the housing crash again to buy, because everybody still kind of got their 2008 experience stuck in their head and thinking that's just how it goes, when if you look historically, that was an anomaly for sure. And we know why it was caused. With the mortgages, there was just bad mortgages getting thrown out to anybody who wanted one, and that led to a crash. And then of course people, especially our age and around, we saw the hurt it put on other families or our own families, and we got a little tainted by the real estate market, thinking, oh, okay, it's cyclical, which it is, but it doesn't always crash like that. And that was one of the only times it ever did crash like that. So we run into that a lot, and I thought it might be beneficial to chat some people out there who are kind of on the fence or maybe in that mindset, and go over some reasons why that may not be the case.
Yeah, that's great. That's funny. I was just, it was yesterday. I was talking to my good buddy. He's a financial advisor.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't do personal anymore. It's like business financial advisor. And I just kind of talked to him about like his outlook and what they're kind of seeing. And I think everybody's really, kind of scared of a recession right now. And even all the bulls are kind of pulling back on their opinions, and not quite as bullish about the market. We're heading into an election year. That usually is not good for stocks and the market. But
a lot of unpredictability, especially in election year. And, it's all cyclical. Recessions come, they have to come. It's just, they don't always as bad as people think. It's, 3 negative quarters in a row, but it doesn't know how dramatic it is.
Is it 3?
I think it's 2 or 3. I'm
2.
not sure.
I think it's 2.
Yeah.
So you have 2 negative GDP quarters, and that qualifies as a recession.
Yeah.
So we've had that since 2008.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things I brought up with him is, every first quarter of every year, the market kind of tanks.
Are you talking about the real estate side?
No, I'm talking.
Or just over the market?
Yeah.
So
people, like you mentioned, everybody has 2008, 2009 stuck in their brains, and that's an anomaly.
Yeah.
Over the course of the history.
Yeah. If you look at the last 4 or 5 recessions, really 2008 was the only one that had a major impact on the housing prices. There was one other that did have an impact, but it was not dramatic at all. And the other ones had no effect.
Was that the
housing
80s?
market. I think that was that might have been the 80s. Is that
Or the 2000?
Yeah, I think in the 2000s.
Okay.
Negative. I don't know offhand. I was just
Yeah.
reading a report on that was chatting on that, and it was such a minimal effect on it that it wasn't even. It was just had to point out the fact that it was negative. It was like minus 1% or something, whereas 2008 was awful, as we all know.
Yeah, and I mean the housing market, it's cyclical in itself as well. I mean, going from winter to spring,
Of course,
you see this huge upswing, and then through the summer it kind of falls flat,
mm-hmm.
and then back through the fall and winter you have this downturn, and it happens every year.
Yeah, always.
Every single year.
Yeah, people back in school, holidays. Nobody wants to move during Thanksgiving and Christmas, and it's cold, especially in Oregon. It's cold and rainy, and that's the last time you want to be loading up stuff in the back of your truck to be moving around. So,
oh yeah,
I mean, it happens. I think across the U.S. it's cyclical as far as during the seasons.
Move around Christmas.
Yeah,
Who
I
wants
don't
to
want
do
to move
that.
around Christmas. No way. Kids are in school. Yeah, that's the last.
Even if I'm going to get a deal on a house.
Yeah, holidays are stressful enough.
No, but it's a great time to buy during the winter.
Yeah.
I mean, depending on the price point,
competition's
of course,
down for sure. There's less, like you say, there's the advantage of that when there's less buyers out there, then
and it's
more
cheaper.
likely to get a good deal. Yeah, definitely.
You'll probably have 3% appreciation by the spring.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because you'll see it go up right away. Definitely.
Yeah. So, just kind of looking at the numbers that we had over the last month, year to date, we're not up that much. But a lot of that is due to the drop we had a pretty good drop during last winter.
Yeah.
And all of our statistics are delayed too. So for the RMLS, the market statistics, they come out mid-month for the month prior.
Yeah.
And then by the time I get them out, it's another week or two. And so we're really a month behind. And tacked onto that is closing times.
Yeah.
So you have a 30 to 45 day close. So really we're 2 months behind the swing.
Definitely.
So when you see the low points hitting in January, where it says, these are the lowest numbers that we've seen, or most days on market, really that was 2 months ago.
Yeah. You can never get real time. And a couple of the biggest things that I see being a factor is, as most people are probably aware of, we're in historically low interest rates.
Mm-hmm.
They've been low for years now, and I think people are starting to get a little bit accustomed to that. But you got to look at let's take a step back and look at historically over the long run that this is really a rare time to be at this low rates, and it's frankly not sustainable. So people have been kind of looking around for the last 5 years, kind of seeing them all under 5% or kind of getting used to this and thinking this is just how mortgage rates are and how they will be, but that's not the case. I mean, 7-8% was not unusual at all. I mean, I think during the early 80s they were up at like 20% for a point there at that exact height, which was absolutely insane. I don't see us going back there, but being in the upper threes and low fours is just something that people are not understanding that's really a great opportunity to buy right now. I mean, you've probably heard of the argument to hedge against inflation. If inflation's averaging at 3%, which I know of recent years it's been a little bit below that, but getting in an interest rate at 4% is a great way to hedge. Your payment's fixed for 30 years, and the power of the dollar goes down over time, but your payment stays the same. So effectively, your payment, if you get a 30-year fixed mortgage, your payment in 20 years is not as burdening as it is today. If you look at the cost of living 20 years ago versus now, it's a good time to get in and get that rate fixed.
That's a great point. Yeah.
And another, actually, I'll take a second I ran some numbers and I thought I'd throw out an example here. For those people that are thinking, oh, maybe, if the housing market, housing prices drop a little bit, that's when I'll go ahead and buy. And my thought is on that is if interest rates don't stay the same, if they go up, let's say 1%, I ran some numbers to see how that affect a payment. So if you had a $350,000 mortgage at a 4% interest rate, you'd have a principal and interest payment of $1,670 a month. Now, if housing prices went down $25,000, so you got that same house and your mortgage is $25,000 less, but interest rates went up to 5%, a 1% increase, you'd have a payment of $1,745. So that means the $25,000 cheaper house has a $75 a month higher payment. So although you think, okay, I'm getting in at a cheaper house here to, make it more cost effective, it actually isn't. You're paying $75 more a month for that cheaper house. So there's more to buying than just looking at, unless you're a cash buyer, to just looking at the value of the house. And that's something I don't think enough people really take a second to look at.
Right. So, I mean, that goes with the affordability. If the house price goes down, but the interest rate goes up, you're just going to be stuck. Now, the flip side to that is if you're a cash buyer, right? You're going to want that price. I mean,
you're going to want to get at the lowest price.
Cash, right?
But you never know when the lowest price is going to be. If the housing drops $25,000 and your thought is, hey, I'm gonna buy right now, how do you know that it's not going to drop another $25,000?
Right.
And as prices go down, I mean, you're kidding yourself if you don't think there's thousands of investors out there just praying for a market to crash so they can get in and buy, because they know real estate is, it's the number one way. It's created more millionaires than any other industry.
Yeah.
And, if you just listen to, there's plenty of good podcasts on it, or a lot of investors are out there. They're waiting. They're hoping that there's a crash, because that's when they're going to get in and buy a bunch of properties. So if your plan is to outsmart all these investors when the market goes down, and you're going to come in and finance a property when you're not going to be able to compete, as with cash buyers, that they have the advantage on that. And
definitely.
And as the markets crash, it also gets far harder to qualify for a mortgage. Lenders aren't wanting to lend when they're watching the market go down. They're going to be a little bit stricter on on all the criteria for qualifying for it. So there's a lot of people that there's a lot of aspects they're not thinking of when their whole plan is to wait and get in at the low point, not realizing how competitive it's going to be. And, if that even ever happens, it might go down a little bit. It definitely could level off, but I just think it's a very risky strategy. As they say, you buy and wait, you don't wait to buy.
Right.
Especially if it's one thing if you have 20 properties and you're accumulating more, you have a little bit more area to kind of sit there and decide whether I want to pick up another one or not. But if you're renting right now, you got to get into a house. You can decide from there. You can always rent out rooms to help offset your mortgage payment, but rents continue to rise. I mean, every year, different markets have fixed rent caps on how much they can increase. But even if 3% a year, they're going to keep up with the cost of living. They're going to go up.
Oh, definitely.
And 30-year fixed mortgage won't. And you can rent out rooms. And if you don't own, you got to get at least your first one. Then you can decide if you want to try to play the market and go from there.
And I feel that the interest rate really impacts that first one the most.
Oh yeah.
Right. Because once you're in it, once you're whether you turn around and rent out your first house or you sell it and have a good chunk to put down on the next one, that rate's not going to have quite the impact it did for you for that first house purchase, because likely your first house purchase is going to happen around close to the age of 30.
Yeah.
Obviously, some people I've seen as young as like 20 years old purchase. Yeah. I've seen as late as I helped a 56-year-old lady buy her first house.
Yeah,
and that was an amazing experience. But to get your first one, you're not making as much now as you're going to be making in the future. So that rate plays a huge role. You're likely going to be buying under $400,000. So even if we do have a bit of a decline in the housing prices, we're not going to have you calculated $25,000 drop on $350,000. I just had a listing go on at $350,000. We had multiple offers and we're going to sell well above $350,000. That market below $400,000 is not going to be affected. There's too many. You're in this pool with all the buyers.
Yeah.
The higher up in price you get, the smaller that buyer pool gets.
Definitely.
So that rate has a huge impact.
Yeah.
And if you're going to end up in a competitive multiple offer situation, you won't have the flexibility to try to outbid somebody.
Yeah, it helps your buying power. Yeah, there's two key things you said there, and that's definitely true. Talking to the first-time home buyers, often they're under the $400,000 mark, and before they were even lower than that, but now it's hard to find stuff under $300,000 as we know. But you're spot on with the fact that houses under $500,000, I'd say are far more protected from any kind of market crash than when you're looking at, $1 million houses. Just like you said, there's a lot bigger. The population's growing. People always need and want a place to live. People are always going to want their own house. People always need a place to hang their hat somewhere. So when you're in the under 500,000, regardless of what the market's doing, there's going to be people out there who are looking to buy, and that market's just far more protected. Historically, you can see that lower houses appreciate faster and depreciate slower. Simple supply and demand. There's a lot more demand for them. So that's a big one. And then another thing you said is, buying around 30. I believe it's 31 to 33 range is the average age for a first-time home buyer. And that makes me kind of want to consider the fact that the millennial generation, which I believe you and I both are, is, I think they said 75 million. It's the largest generation, even bigger than the post-baby boomers. And the vast majority of them are entering right into that age this coming year, 2020. So if we can only expect by the
I guess we are on the older end of.
Yeah. A little bit older. I'm a little bit over that. But we can expect the market to be, based on these statistics, to be a large portion of new buyers entering into the market this coming year. And that could very well be enough, with the inventory the way it is, unless we see some spike in inventory, that could very well swing it back over into being a seller's market like we've seen a couple years back, where you're getting into those multiple competitive offers. So, especially come springtime, that's going to line up with, as we see the market naturally grow, or naturally heat up a little bit, that being flooded with buyers who are hitting that prime age. That's even more reason to buy right now if that's something that's available to you. But the sooner the better. With the population growing, I mean, Oregon alone, I was just reading a report that it's 40,000. It's gone over 40,000 up in population over the last year, and over 400,000 since 2010. So the way I look at it, with
is that Oregon or Portland?
That's
Metro?
Oregon.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And with housing, I mean, I just kind of like to look at it in a simple, the simplest way. Like I was saying, people need a place to live, and I don't know if there's going to be any way to innovate out of housing. Back in the day, if you're a guy who sold horses and you knew everybody rode horses and that's how you moved everything around, they might be saying, oh, hey, horses, the value is going to go up and up and up until, Mr. Ford invented the automobile, and that kind of threw that under the thing. I don't know who's going to invent the thing that replaces housing and where you live. Maybe Elon's going to get us up to the Mars, and that's going to change everything. And that might depreciate the value a little bit, but I'm not betting on that.
No, I can't imagine that happening in our lifetime.
Do you see that new Tesla truck? Speaking of Elon?
Oh, gosh.
Not to digress too much.
Do you like it?
Not really.
God.
I heard during his presentation, he was showing the shatterproof windows, and he threw like a tennis ball-sized ball bearing. He had it launched against the window, and the window shattered. And then he went to another one, and it shattered again. Yeah,
no
and he's
way.
like, oh, well, the engineers are still working out a few of the tweaks. I was like, I think he would have tested that. But yeah, that truck looks like something out of
it's trippy, man.
Yeah, future movie. But hey,
God, it looks like just all triangulated.
Yeah,
It's just weird.
Aerodynamic, I suppose. But yeah, I admire the guy.
Yeah, it looks like a Mars rover, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. That's what he's shooting for. That's his plan. So, like I said, there's things that could hurt the.
Apparently, the windows won't hold up on Mars.
No, it doesn't sound like it. But yeah, not to digress too much, but I just don't see anybody innovating out of housing. People always want a house. Yeah. People are going to love it. They want that their own piece of property. They can raise their family, backyard with the dog, or whatever it is. Someone not telling them if they can paint a wall or not.
Sure.
It's just one of those assets, one of the very few assets that you're going to live in. It's more than just an asset, appreciating financial tool. It's something you raise a family in. It's your own place you're going to spend a vast majority of your time in. So it's one of those things where, regardless of the financial gain, it's something people are going to want.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think I've always looked at it as an investment. Even when I bought my first house, it was just to get in and gain equity. I knew I wasn't going to live in that one long term, but this last house we purchased, I mean, me and my wife both talked, and we said, this is it.
Yeah.
This is where we're going to live, at least until the kids are, gone and out, and then maybe we can buy, some property in the country or something.
Yeah.
But beyond that, that's where we're going to live. I don't really care about the investment portion of this house.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I don't think we made a good investment. We didn't make a good investment. It's not a house that's going to appreciate at a fast rate, and we paid a pretty penny for it.
Yeah.
It's right in that price range where it's not going to appreciate very well. And if something does happen, it's going to go down in value quite a bit.
Yeah.
And maybe it already has.
Yeah.
Looking at the surrounding houses around us that go up for sale, our price per square foot is much higher than theirs.
Yeah.
Our house is drastically different, but
yeah, but that's just like you're saying. It doesn't have to be.
But
your
I'm
financial
happy.
tool. And
I'm happy there.
Regardless if I don't know how long ago you bought it, but even if there was a little fluctuation in it, if you're planning on staying it for as long as it kind of sounds like you are, and I know your kids are young, so it's not like they're going to be out of the house next year. I can almost guarantee, there's no guarantees, but that it's going to be a good financial investment by the time you're ready to exit or in the
15,
near future.
20 years down the road, it's.
And I don't know what your interest rate is, but I bet if you had to rent it out, you could probably cover your mortgage payment, or if you had to take on somebody living there, you can definitely make that happen. I'm with you on that. It's kind of funny because I was always nerding out on the smartest way to do real estate investment, and I considered buying a multifamily, which I still think is a great idea. Going FHA 3.5% down, buying a 2-3 unit property. And
I'll go in on it with you.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's primary residence, beautiful. This is years ago. I was looking at them in Newburgh, and they were cheaper. But I fall victim to the fact that I have to have a 2-year commission average too. So when I first got in the industry, I was watching this rapid appreciation, and I just had to have my 2 years income before I could qualify to buy. But then I ended up just falling in love with the house I currently live in, and pretty much made every wrong move you could do as far as investments. I bought the most expensive house in the neighborhood, and the guy remodeled it, and it was just gorgeous. That's what he did for a living. And so I bought it. It's a nice piece of property out there, but typically they say you want to buy the lower end in the neighborhood and build it up because it helps appreciate. But I just fell in love with it, and I could see it being my forever house. It's more house than I need. I got extra bedrooms, but I rent out one to a buddy of mine, and got my brother staying in another one of the rooms. So wasn't even naturally the intention when I bought the house, but I like to help them out, and at the same time they're helping me out covering a portion of my mortgage payment. So the investment on the cash flow right there is good, and it's definitely appreciated as well. But yeah, that just goes back to the fact that
I won't ask if you're claiming that on your taxes.
Yeah, no. Well, actually, I don't think most people with have live-ins do, but I don't really know the exact law on that.
Yeah,
we'll see. Yeah, I will not release my tax returns. But yeah, so that's kind of what it boils down to as far as the people on the fence is, why are you buying? If you're buying for just investment property, I still think it's a good time to buy. But like most people, they're buying because they want a home, they want a place to live, someplace to call their own, raise their family, do that. And like we both said, we fell in love with the house, knew it was the one, we did it. And in the long run, like I said, I'm not a property flipper. So in the long run, it will be a good financially. I got a 3.75% interest rate, and I've been paying down my principal while the house is appreciating. So although there's better ways to do it, if I want to do it on pure financial strategy, it's still, I love the house. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Oh, and like you said, 10, 15 years down the road, that property is probably going to almost double in value, I bet.
Yeah, definitely.
There's a lot of money moving into this area.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing Lake Oswego and Wilsonville and West Lynn. I can't tell you how many $1 million houses I see now.
Oh, yeah.
Plus.
Yeah.
And those houses 10, 15 years ago were not even close to that.
No. It'd been nice to get in there.
It's going to just keep on going. Let me ask you this. So we're sitting here, defending the housing market, and I feel like we're always doing that in our profession. Is there anything to you that's frightening going on right now?
Yeah. The one reassuring thing is how many, it's very frustrating to a lot of buyers, but how regulated the mortgage industry is. They're vetting people out on how much you can qualify for, and they're not giving loans to anybody. They're making it very, very difficult to get the financing, which as they should, because we saw what it did in 2008. But that being said,
you're in the industry. You've been doing it over 6 years. Do you think it's really that strict?
Yeah. They've been slowly lightening it up a little bit, but still to the point where there's just a lot of scenarios that there's good loans out there that don't fit the mortgage regulations as they are right now. And it's just hard.
Gotcha.
They're so protected against it that they have, these overlaying requirements, and there's some people that are a good loan, but they just don't qualify. For example, like the debt to income ratio we chatted about before. You can say, okay, 45% debt to income ratio, but let's say a guy makes, just to keep it simple, $1,000 a month. 45% of that is $450, meaning he has $550 left over. We're just keeping it simple, not factoring in taxes or anything. Now, a guy who makes $10,000 a month, 45% is $4,500, means he has $5,500 left over. So in that scenario, they treat those both the same. But to me, the guy with $10,000 a month is definitely a better loan because he's got $5,500 left over versus the guy who's got $550 left over. So there's some area there where it's like if that guy's debt to income ratio got to 50%, he might not qualify. But the guy who's got $450 out of his paycheck left to live on qualifies. But the guy who's got $5,000 left out of his paycheck doesn't qualify. So there's stuff like that, and it's hard. It's a very difficult thing to regulate it because we don't want it getting back to how it was. But where I was going with that is, I feel great about that. As a mortgage lender myself, I would love them to ease up just because, there's a lot of times I got to tell people no. And they really, it's like, not that I don't think that you're worthy of being lent this money, but I have to fit the regulations, of course. It's not my call to make. According to our government regulations, you do not qualify for the mortgage. Self-employed people run into that all the time. But one thing that I do, if I had to play devil's advocate to my my thoughts on real estate investing, is seeing people, younger generation especially, kind of abusing credit a lot. Student loans we see all the time, higher credit card balancing. Not sure if some of the younger people understand the negative effects of compounding interest on a credit card. And there's a lot of grant programs and zero down, so you're not having a lot of skin in the game. So that would be my one concern is people getting into it that have not a lot of reserves. Maybe they get a gift from their parents to cover that 3.5% down or 5% down. And they don't, they're really pushing their ratios. Because I tell people what they qualify for. I talk to them about what their comfortable payment is, and the whole goal is don't push to what you qualify for. What what your comfortable payment is. We don't look at
unless you got some plans outside.
Your
W-2
expectations of additional income coming in. But we don't look at a lot of factors like your cell phone bill or your car insurance, all your different insurance. There's a lot of factors we don't factor in your debt to income ratio. So some people I do believe are over leveraging themselves, which is never a good thing, and then not keeping any money in the bank. So my advice out there is if you're not able to save up some money on your own, you should really think about a home ownership, because the difference between renting and owning is if your water heater goes out, you don't call the landlord. You got to figure out how to get that fixed. So if I had to, again, play devil's advocate, it'd be it's not for everybody. If you're not able to survive the way it is, with your current rent, if you're consistently borrowing money and you have zero in the bank, maybe don't go get into a mortgage with a higher payment just because you think the appreciation is going to be there. You can still do it, if you're smart about it and, get renters in and things like that. But if you're drowning in credit card debt that's accumulating just because you qualify doesn't mean it's the best thing. So I would say that can be cause for concern. Definitely not enough out there to sink the market if those people have to sell or anything like that, and we're in a safe thing. But the big thing is when you're going, 0% down or a grant program or the only skin you have in the game is some minimum down payment that was gifted from your parents, is that there's not a whole lot of room for error there.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot.
Yep.
Where they're stretching to their max approval, using a down payment assistance program,
buying an older house. That's one thing I've always appreciated about you. I've seen you out there talking to people, and it's not people need to work with somebody who's going to educate them and let them know, when you're buying a brand new construction, you can feel a little bit better. Not that you ever want to have any guarantees, about there won't be any repairs, but you can feel better about
home
that.
warranty.
When you're buying some older house, you have an inspection, it makes you feel good, but you have to know things wear out. I had a dishwasher and a fridge go out at the same time not too long ago. They're 12, 13 years old, and that's one of those things where if a couple more things happen, you don't have any money in the bank, that can be a really rough situation.
It's going on credit cards and you got the interest on that.
Yeah, then those compound, and then somehow something goes wrong, you lose your job or something like that happens, and all of a sudden you're in a bad situation.
So is that about it then? Is that the most frightening thing you're just kind of seeing right now?
Yeah, I just think there's some people out there you're talking to that just I don't know if they understand the full concept of that. And then they have the people, like if their agent isn't really making them aware of that, they can just find themselves in a bad situation. That with some bad luck, sometimes something like you said, you can't predict if a water heater goes out or something like that happens. A little bit of bad luck hitting you at the wrong time after you just took your dog into the vet and you didn't understand how much you needed in the bank. There's ways it can bite you. But
oh yeah, for sure. I think my biggest, as far as lending goes, sometimes I feel they're not strict enough.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're talking somebody can buy a house with a 580 credit score.
Yeah.
Or, huge advocate for down payment assistance programs. Yeah. But like you said, in those certain scenarios, it's pretty risky.
Yeah.
And then as well as, where was I going with that?
Yeah, well, I agree with you. There's times out there that you see it where somebody can fit all the guidelines, but still you can look at it and be like, I don't know. I mean, this guy has a history of foreclosures that, although they were a while back,
right.
It's kind of a red flag. And then his credit score is barely super low. There tends to be a reason for that. It doesn't save up any money.
I know where I was going.
Yeah, go ahead. I was trying to cover
the
for you.
Bank statement loans.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I have a love-hate with those.
Yeah.
I think they're a good option for maybe somebody who was truly writing off more than they should have been. But on the flip side, there are people who do their taxes correctly, and they can go use this bank statement loan to up their buying power.
Yeah, definitely.
And really, they have more money going out than what's coming in.
And it's kind of funny with that. So, we're seeing... over the years, we're seeing a little bit more loans optioning. You're referring to non-QM loans, non-qualified mortgage loans. We're seeing some options up there, which I'm a big advocate for, because like I was saying earlier, sometimes kind of back to that debt to income ratio scenario, sometimes there's a good loan out there that the guy just doesn't fit the income. And then sometimes there's a reason why they don't fit the guidelines as they stand. And that's because, they're just not probably a good loan on paper. But like you said, with the bank statement loans, instead of us ever looking at your tax returns, we just look at your bank statements and see how much money's going into it, and then we calculate your income effectively off that. Now, there's times when that's great. Say you got a guy who owns 20 rental properties, and he's got tax returns that are about 10,000 pages long, and whether he's unable to dig them all up or doesn't want to go through digging them all up, because that's a nightmare to go through underwriting and go through every one of those calculations and do that. And he might go, hey, I'd rather just do the bank statement loan. I'll take a little bit higher interest rate, and that's worth it for the hassle for me in my situation. It can be a good scenario, but at the same time, with those loans, they tend to have a higher interest rate. So it's kind of funny to me how somebody who's less likely to repay their loan is hit with a higher interest rate because they're higher risk, right? So it's like that even kind of snowballs effect in my mind. That's like, okay, so yeah, you're pretty risky, so we're going to make you have to pay a higher payment. It's like, well, that even makes it higher risk, of not defaulting. And that's why the investor does it, because they're like, hey, I want a bigger return on this because you're more likely to default than the other guy. But sometimes it's like, okay, well, we gave a loan to a guy who really doesn't qualify for it because he doesn't fit the things. And we gave it to him at a higher interest rate, so his payment's higher than everybody else. It's like, this should work out great. I mean, it could backfire, but again, like I said, there's so many times when it. I had a coworker of mine who just did a loan for a dentist who had just bought out a practice. He was a great dentist and just bought out a practice from another a dentist who was retiring, and just that year. So obviously, he's good at what he does, but the cost of buying out that was a burden on him financially. And we haven't seen the return of all those new clientele yet. But he wanted to buy a house. So he could wait, whatever, a year or two to show that all this, added business, it's good for him. He's doing great enough to where he can buy a whole nother practice to get in all that clientele. But he doesn't look good in the eyes of the standard mortgage guidelines, so he wasn't able to qualify. He knows he's making money. He knows he made a great business decision. He'll be making more money. It's not like people aren't going to need, well, I guess maybe someday they'll invent out of dentists, but I'm pretty sure it's pretty good job security for him. He knows what he's doing. Really, he acquired more debt as far as taking out loan to buy that practice, which was a good business. His return will be more than enough to justify that decision. But in the eyes of us as a lender, his debt to income ratio wasn't there. So that's when the non-QM really helped him out, because he was able to get into that, and he can refi out of that later on into a lower interest loan. But he'll have no problem paying it. So like I said, that's kind of one of those ones where there's reason for it, but there's concern at times too.
Yeah. I could see that. There's definitely pros and cons to everything, and there's going to be risk involved no matter what. I think that was good talk to just kind of talk about the negatives. We're always talking about the positives and why it's a good time and why the best time to get in is now.
Yeah.
It's always now. 5 years from now, it'll be, when should I buy a house?
Yeah.
Now.
And like you said, when you talk about the negatives, I 100% agree. Obviously I'm an advocate for it, but the way I look at it in a big thing is when I'm talking about it is I don't really try to, it's not my expertise to talk to a house flipper, somebody who's going to buy, renovate and sell in 1 year or
less.
Somebody's looking to flip or, 1 to 3 years. Who knows? That the market can be so volatile over that. But if you look historically over the long run, the buy and hold strategy is very safe. And, there's a lot of flippers making a lot of money and may very well make a lot of money for the foreseeable years. But at that time, I'm not going to have as much conviction in saying it's a good idea because the market may go down. The whole argument I make is that if you look at it, it always comes back up.
Mm-hmm.
Houses have surpassed the value they were pre the 2008 crash. So if I could go back in time, if I were able to buy 10 houses right before the crash, I'd have done it. If I could rent them out and survive through while they rebounded back up, it would have been a good investment still.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those things where depending on what strategy you're looking for, you have to really take a lot of considerations in there. Very high risk if you don't have your exit strategy requires you to be out at a specific date because you don't know where the market will be at that date.
Right.
But when you can buy and hold, and if you can hang on there, if the market does go down, you don't have to sell at that low point. Then it can be a very safe investment over the long run.
Oh yeah. I have so I know a builder developer who I loosely work with. He has, before we were looking for lots,
Mm-hmm.
right? He wanted to build, and he did build. But now he's more recently said, I just want to do either quick flips
Mm-hmm.
or I want rentals because we're safe with both of those scenarios. He's unsure about the future, as I think a lot of people are unsure about the next 3 to 4 years, the short term.
Yeah.
Right. So that's his strategy is he's saying, I don't want to take 2 years to do this project anymore. Yeah. I either want long term, so I can just purchase it, maybe renovate it and rent it out, or just rent it out. Or I want the quick 6 month flip because we're still going strong right now.
Yeah. And that's pretty safe, like the 6 month option. But even in that scenario, it's nice if you're, either using cash, if you have that extra cash to do that with, not using all your cash to do that, but or just using a traditional mortgage where you feel like if all of a sudden you just timed it somehow the worst you could, and in 6 months is right while it's crashing, you could convert it into a rental. Now, if you're using hard money lending or something where the note's due in a year and there ain't no option, you have a balloon payment you have to do and you have to sell in 1 year, that's when it gets really, really scary.
Yeah.
So you can
leave the country.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's my advice.
Hard money lenders. Yeah, we were looking into that for a while.
Yeah,
if
you want to pay 4 points and 10 to 12% interest rate or something like that, I don't do much with hard money, but it's you're paying for it.
It's the 10 to 12 a month.
Yeah,
is what you got to pay back.
40% down,
interest only for while you have that loan. And
there's a time and a place for everything, but that's one that you really don't want to put all your eggs in that basket with the whole exit strategy of I'll sell and pay it off, and if not, I have no other money to live on. So it can be high risk, but I'm sure some people use it advantageously.
Yeah, they do.
Or some people
try.
Fools. Yeah.
Some people watch too much HGTV.
Yeah. One of my best friends, the hard money lender, so I hope he's listening to this. He's probably going to be shaking his head. Yeah, he's down in California.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. I think we covered quite a bit. Got any plans for Thanksgiving?
Just blessed to be spending it with some family.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
nothing, eating some elk?
Too exciting. I'll definitely be eating some elk.
Smoke some steaks or?
I don't know if I'll have time to smoke some. I need to get a smoker, but I know. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
I got some buddies that have them. I'll have to have them smoke me up some. But, man, I love the burger and the steaks. Probably cook up some tenderloin out of that.
You didn't eat those?
No, I have them, but I haven't cooked them up yet.
Oh, man. That's usually – so in years past, I've always – the night I get home from packing the animal out is when I eat the tenderloins.
That's what we did deer hunting this year.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. We hung it up in the tree, cut up tenderloins, camped it, and cooked them up, and had tenderloin tacos.
Ooh.
Delicious.
Cool, man. Well, how can people reach out to you?
Yeah, you can always, of course, you can find me on all the social medias. I guess Travis Smith is a pretty popular name, so I would search Travis Smith Cross Country. I'm not tech savvy enough to have my exact Instagram URL or anything like that, but if not, you can always shoot me an email, travis.smith@myccmortgage.com, CC standing for Cross Country Mortgage, or reach out to Dylan. He can always get you in contact with me.
Nice. And you do it all. You got the conventional loans, you got the FHA, the USDA, or if they just want advice, reach out to you.
We got non-QM loans. We had we rolled out recently an awesome construction loan program, and our rates are amazing, like 4% kind of range for brand new construction and permanent loan. You buy the lot, build the whole house. Amazing. We have our own construction department. That's all they do, so they walk you right through that. I don't have to be the expert at all the ins and outs. Great awesome. Resource for me to give you all that information. Renovation loans, of course, are a great option. All the standard mortgages. Anything you need, or even if you say want to chat about the market or have any questions or have any concerns, feel free to reach out. I love talking about it.
Grab a beer.
Yes, sir. That's the best.
All right, man. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for taking time out of your day. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Dylan. Always a pleasure.
Thank you for tuning in to the Real Talk Real Estate PDX podcast. Stay up to date on Portland real estate action by subscribing or follow along on Instagram at Real Talk Real Estate PDX. Any questions or comments about this episode or any real estate matter, feel free to reach me at dylan.pdxrealtor@gmail.com. Thanks again and have a great day.